He says if we're going to regional, if we're going for regional government, then it also means that the ministers themselves, the legislators, will be the same. I've been tinkering with the idea of how we can save money to run Nigeria because the country needs money. He explained. The senator urged the president and the National Assembly to consider these legislative changes, emphasizing their potential to benefit the entire nation. He also addressed the common misconception that senators receive excessive compensation, highlighting the need for a constitutional amendment to facilitate part time legislative sessions. He talked about the fact that it would bring trust and relief to the Nigerian people. And according to him, it reflects his ongoing commitment to reducing governmental costs and fostering a more efficient and trustworthy political system in Nigeria. All right. Uh, well, that is the conversation that Senator Oji Uzokalu had. He talked about regional government. Um, he talked about ensuring that all the national assemblies, all the assemblies, state house of assemblies, all the legislative houses in Nigeria, they will be part time. They could sit for 6 months and then, they'll make room for emergency sessions as needed. Sorry, they'll convene 4 times a year with provisions for emergency sessions as needed. This is what he had to say about this. I'm trying as much as I can to reach out to Mr. Larry Oguego, and so we can have this conversation about the efficiency of the legislative arm of government so far, what it means, what it has done in ensuring that the right laws are being signed into law. The right laws are being signed into law. Meanwhile, the legislative arm of government is called the House of Assembly. Like, this arm of government is primarily responsible for developing laws that are focused on the progress of the country and the well-being of the country as well. Of the House. The people elect members of the House of Assembly, and they represent their state constituencies at the state. Looking at the big, broader conversation, the Legislative Assembly performs three important roles in its job of overseeing the government. Number one is a legislative role. Number two is a financial role. And number three is an inquiry role. These are the three roles of the Legislative Assembly. A legislative role, which is to pass laws that are that are helpful to Nigerians as a whole. The second one is a financial role, looking at the budget, national planning, and all of that. And then the third one is an inquiry role, which is supposed to be sort of like an oversight function on the government. Looking at that, how effective have they been to be taking the amount of monies that they've been taking so far? Good morning, Mr. Larry. Welcome to the conversation right here.
Good morning, Gessie. How are we this morning?
We're doing well. How was your weekend?
Yeah, so how's a week unfolding? My weekend was great. Had plenty of rest. Everything worked together for my good.
All right. I don't know if we can say that about Nigeria, but let's see how it plays out. All right. So the senator Orji Uzokalu, he talked about ensuring that there's a reduction in the cost of governance, and he suggested for the National Assembly or the legislative assemblies, let me put it like that, they'll convene 4 times a year, but they'll make room for emergency sessions. So he talked about meeting 4 times a year to ensure that there's a reduction in costs, all these sitting allowances and all of that. Maybe they only collect it 4 times a year, but we don't know about the price, the salary aspect or the monetary aspect of the conversation. All he said was 4 times a year they should convene, and then also the same thing for the state assemblies as well. What's your take on this?
I think Nigeria should take the issue of the legislative working part-time seriously. I do not agree necessarily with the 4 times a year methodology, but the concept of part-time is something we should just legislate upon, because if the truth be told, they are already working part-time. In my personal opinion, they are not working full-time. If you check the number of times they sit, if you check how they go on breaks and come back when they like, and how many times they sit in a year. If you really want to be sincere, they're already working part-time. They can explain that they use the other time to do this and that and this and that, but the truth is that the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly are already working part-time in Nigeria. What we need, and even define the method of sitting so that they will not go and tell us that the cost of convening there will also be more than the cost of working full-time. For instance, they can have virtual sittings sometimes. They can have physical sittings when necessary. These things can be worked out. But it is very important that we stop wasting money on the National Assembly. If you look at their functions, you really can't understand why we should spend so much money on the allowances and all of that. If they want the legislative arm of God to vote, they don't do all of these things. They just disappear when it suits them and say they are on recess. And then when they like, they come back. In fact, there was a certain year that they didn't even sit the number of days they were required to sit by law, which means that they committed an offense. They defrauded us because they still paid themselves that year. So I think we need to get to that point where we ask ourselves a simple question. Are they working full-time or part-time, even presently? My own answer is part-time. They are not putting enough work to be said that they are working full-time. I don't want to discuss the amount of money they take away from the national coffers. The issue of, let's make the National Assembly work part-time is a matter of legislation because they are already working part-time. What we need to do is to agree on the part-time structure, deploy it, and then adjust their allowances because then they won't earn salaries. Adjust their allowances to reflect the part-time structure. And if we don't do that, our elections will still be a do or die affair. When we make it part-time and reduce the financial attraction of being a member of the National Assembly or State House of Assembly, what will happen is that more serious-minded people who want to serve the nation will begin to contest for elections. As it is now, people contest for elections primarily for their fortunes to change. And of course, you can see that the moment you become a legislator, your fortunes must change. I mean, if you don't get any other thing, if you get your 160 million naira vehicle and you sell it even for 120 million, in one fell swoop, your fortune has changed. You don't want to talk about the furniture allowance, the dressing allowance, all kinds of newspaper allowance, magazine allowance, all kinds of allowances. And money is for assistants that they don't hire, and money for constituency office that they don't really open. So when you look at what they are doing now, you find out that they're already not only part-time, they are cheating us in so many ways, openly so. And I think we need to take a hard look at that the legislative arm of government and the way it operates in Nigeria.
All right, let's now look at the function of the legislative arm, right? Constitutionally, legislative arm of government is set to perform three different roles. One, legislative role, two, a financial role, and three, an inquiry role. So far, this is the 10th assembly since this dispensation of democracy and all that. How well have the senators performed in these three roles?
Well, I think we'll be saying the legislators that at least if you want us to focus the National Assembly, then say the legislators because we also have the House of Reps and they are supposed to also do their jobs in terms of legislation. But if you ask me, they have not done very well, really. They have not done well. I don't just want to say very well. I will tell you why. Part of the job of the legislative arm of government is to not only introduce bills and pass bills and look at bills introduced from the executive and elsewhere, but they are also supposed to review existing laws. You know, what obtains in other countries. But you also have to compare the circumstances in Nigeria with the circumstances in those other countries. You have to think of our peculiar needs, the kind of human beings we are. whether we will abuse any loopholes in the law, how you can block those loopholes. You look at all kinds of things. Tell me how many legislators now that we have in Nigeria that will sit down and be doing this kind of thinking for public good. You have all kinds of challenges where you sit down, waste a fortune, taxpayer elsewhere, and you should know the problems here. And then at the end of the day, it's done all over. Now, when they were legislating on the rates, did they really get the stakeholders to, not just public hearing? I would have expected that intelligent persons would have called stakeholders, especially the indigent students. Some indigent students, some deans of student affairs, all of those people that feel the pain of indigent students, and then interview them, talk to them, and begin to structure, even talk to the schools that collect the fees. So how do we pay you? What's the best way to pay you? Do you have this? They don't make consultative hearing. Nigeria today. So how do they expect people to prepare their positions and give to them? Should I go and live at National Assembly because I want to submit my position for public hearing, so that if they now cough, I will know that, they're doing public hearing next week? Common sense dictates that if you want to hold a public hearing the next 2 weeks, at least you should tell us now, so we articulate our position. Worst case scenario, 1 week ahead. In this country, sometimes you see it the night before. Why are you announcing public hearing the night before on public television? What are you intending to achieve? You want us to send you a text message? So the people are not serious. Sorry, but they are not just serious. There are so many flaws. This is one of the few countries in the world where you cannot go online and access the laws that have been put out by the states. Most states actually hide the laws, hide them actively. I've tried to get different laws from different state legislative arms of government, and they refuse to. They ask, what are you doing with the law? The same law that you passed and gave the governor to sign, the governor signed, that is supposed to control us. You don't want to give it to us. So how do you begin to have that conversation about how well they are doing? They're not doing well. If you want to just put it simple, they're not doing well. And then if you look at the oversight, we need to talk about that. They are not doing any oversight on the executive. The executive actually have converted them to errand boys, political errand boys, legislative errand boys, financial errand boys, publicity errand boys. They're just errand boys. They give them handouts, dash them cars, dash them land allocations, and then they do their bidding. I'm yet to see a legislative arm say, no, Mr. President or Mr. Governor, this is not acceptable to the state, so we're not going to pass. Tell me the last time you had that. The last time a governor brought a bill to the House of Assembly and they said, no, we won't do it. Or the president brought a bill and they said, no, you won't do it. But tell me the last time. So you find out that job of oversight, of restraining from the executive from engaging in excesses is not going on. What about inquiries? How did they make the inquiries? There was an inquiry into 16 billion that was thrown into the abyss in the name of NIPP, in the name of boosting the electricity supply in Nigeria. So what happened? After they junketed and wasted more money, it was a case of throwing good money after bad money. We lost $16 billion. They junketed some more, lost some billions to pursuing the $16 billion. Nobody told us anything. At the end of the day, we don't even have information. I'm not talking of recovering money. We don't even have information. So that one just disappeared. They woke up some other day and said, we're going to look at this fuel subsidy. This fuel subsidy, it has been draining our resources, so we must get to the root of the matter. Mr. Integrity and his group said we'll look at fuel subsidy. You know how it ended. Mr. Integrity was disgraced. They stopped the inquiry, and nobody talked about fuel subsidy again. And you begin to ask yourself, how do you really explain this kind of charade in the name of legislative arm of government? How?
All right, Mr. Larry, you talked about the senators derailing from or focusing or not focusing on some of the bids that they should be focusing on. There's this video that surfaced online. I don't know if you caught the fire that happened in Karu Market. In fact, it was really, really dastardly. Businesses were affected. And Ireti Kingibe, senator representing the FCT, she talked about the fact that the market should be rebuilt. and giving back to Nigerian people to continue their life and all that. And Senator Godswill Akpabio talked about the fact that why should they use government money to rebuild a market that.
The need for safer public places. I urge the FCDA and Abuja Municipal Area Council to offer the shops when rebuilt.
Playing out.
Safer public places. I urge the FCDA and Abuja Municipal Area Council to offer the shops when rebuilt to the victims at a subsidized and affordable rate in order not to disenfranchise the original owners of the shops. I so submit.
So why do you use government money to build community market, maintain the status, and hand over to the community? So what I'm saying in essence is that the prayer is faulty, but is there anybody who wants to second this prayer?
So I stand and I speak to second the prayer as amended by Senator Eriti Kingibe. If your question has to do with the disbursement or the utilization of government funds in rebuilding a community market, sir, the people are the government, the communities are the government. So it's like the people using their money to their own advantage. So I stand to second the motion as amended by Senator Eriti Kingibe.
And the need for safer public places.
All right, that was the conversation. I don't know if you caught that, Mr. Larry.
Yes, I caught that.
All right, what's your take on this?
It's sad. It's sad that a man who was elected by Nigerians to represent their interests would sit in public space and say that we shouldn't use government money for the benefit of the people. But they consistently use it for their own benefits. They buy vehicles worth 160 million free of charge and allocate to themselves. They build car parks, 3 billion and allocate to themselves. They build library, 8 billion and allocate to themselves. That same man who is saying this thing just is planning to also build a palatial mansion for himself, though he lives in one already. So we live in a country where if expenditure concerns the ordinary Nigerian, it's not important. How can a Senate president open his mouth and say that why should they use it? So who owns the money in the first place? It's our money. It's called Commonwealth. And I thank God for the other senator that stood up to back Ireti Kingibe. I mean, this is government money, and the people, without the people, who are you governing? Are you governing blocks and big politicians? And the submission of the senator is that it should be built and given to them as subsidized rate. She didn't even
Not
say
even
free. So the man wasn't listening. The man is not interested in the welfare of the people at all. That's why I said that a national anthem that they changed, they think they prepared them. Because the words of that national anthem, you know, it's very, very painful to them. Arise, O compatriots, are not compatriots. Nigeria's call obey. They don't want to obey the call of Nigeria. Look at the constitution. They are not obeying the constitution. The spirit of the constitution, they are not obeying. The letter, they are not obeying. So I think they just decided that they will change this, because every time, if you go through that anthem, you find out, if you go to the prayer for Nigeria, it talks about leadership, guide our leaders right. They don't want to be guided right. So there are so many problems in this country. It bleeds my heart that a man who went out to canvass for the votes of the people, so that he will protect them, so that he will legislate for their benefit, will come out openly and ask, why should we use government money to reconstruct a market that was burnt by fire? So why wouldn't he say that? They will be planning how to Kolobi the land, like my brothers from South will say. They want to corner the land and allocate it to themselves and build a plaza and then give it to billionaires. Ireti Kingibe says so that the original owners will not be disenfranchised. But that's what these billionaires want. They want the original owners to be put out so that they can take the land and build a market, allocate to themselves who are not traders. And then if you're a billionaire trader, maybe you get a shop. If you're not, good luck to you.
Or maybe the girlfriend.
But that tells you the heart of the people who are supposed to be representing us. Very sad.
All right. Looking at this issue of an inquiry role, or no, let's not even focus on the inquiry, because that's inquiry role. It'll take us a week to just, unravel that. Looking at the legislative role.
Have you even talked about the screening of candidates? Take a bow. Take a bow. There are so many things to talk about.
Mr. Larry, I don't know the kind of governance that we practice here in the country, especially with our the legislative arm of government. But I'd like the Nigerian citizens to call in and let me know what they think about it. 0808 312 8618. So the rebuilding of a Cairo market is not important to the National Assembly, but a rebuilding or the building of the Vice President's house with over 20 billion naira is important.
Oh, that is, yes. That is very important. One man's house with a fortune. And the man has a palatial mansion already. The house in which our president which presently accommodates our vice president. If you take it to most of the West African countries, they will pass out, they will faint. I'm not joking. That is that house that they want to condemn and say it's not good enough for our vice president. If they just say want to build new government house, I can tell you without mentioning words, it is corruption that drives all this contractocracy. Because one of the fastest ways to steal money is contracts, especially construction contract. I understand construction. The very nature of construction makes it amenable to stealing. So they are looking for things to build every day, even when it's not necessary. But when you tell them to build people, improve salaries, improve empowerment systems, they don't want to do that, because if you improve my salary, if you increase my salary, you can't ask me for kickback from salary. It doesn't work. You can't tell me, Larry, I'm going to increase your salary to 90,000, but you give me 20,000 every month. You can't tell me that. Because the same states that say we don't have money to pay minimum wage, they waste money doing projects that are absolutely unnecessary. Projects you can't explain. We were told the other day that in Abia State, phantom airports were built with billions of naira, but workers were owed wages for months because you can't get kickback from workers. So all these things are driven by corruption of the highest order. People with perverted minds, more or less. Because it takes a high degree of perversion to see people suffering the way people suffer in Nigeria, and you are not moved. You are just thinking of what you get from the system.
All right.
And then we say, let us support traders. We say, no, you don't want to support them. It's not that we are not building that. Why should we build for them?
The deputy senator had something to say. All right, I'll take that after we take this call. Hello, Adewumi. Can you hear me? Oh, all right. We lost that call. It was trying to connect, but it didn't. All right. Do well to call me back. 0808 312 8618. 0808 312 8618 is the number to call. Do you think our 10th Assembly is doing what it ought to do as... All right, go ahead.
Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you.
Thank you, my darling sister. Sorry, let me load the... You can see now that there is our leader. And proud to be calling leader. Look at my governor. Also say I wanted somebody. Say to the governor of swimming pool. Just why do I mention this? Just like what your guest said. All of them are deciding. The other time, you live in the same place where they are building for what's his name? And Setima moved to the former commissioner for working for years. They are all billionaires. Look, all of them now, they won't build another house. The one in Apo is of no use. Apabio was a former commissioner 8 years in Akwa Ibom. Former governor 6 years. With all what they make, with the some people that they talk with them. Tinubu was a former senator, former governor for it, a political leader that all appointed in the southwest must go and pay him with their fellow. Not allegedly, it's what all of us know. Look at it now. They bought here. They are buying another aeroplane with something on social media. I never believed that in the fake news. But look at anything they point that they will do. They are doing it. They are buying bulletproof tire. for a car that is not even filler, from filler to maybe airport, they park it back. There is over 200 million again, and they are saying we should patient, baby step, we should not protect. How wicked are they? Look at that country. You will not see Joe Biden, Donald Trump, all of them use this type of, but in here now, the fact is the case. I think Nigeria will need to rise up. This is enough. We need to rise up because this thing is getting out of hand. If we continue to allow these people like this, much people, you and I, we still agree, and they will get it because the plan, so-called political leader, is to make, to suffocate us and to make their children to come and wear their shoes. You can imagine, look at it. He's a half pregnant former government state, and his daughter is half a prime member. What do you think he will bring their functionary that in the next social year? Look at Bajabi Amila. He has been in National Assembly. All of them, they don't want us to come. They don't allow other people. As if it's only them that they know what to do. And they are not doing what they're supposed to do. So Nigeria need to rise up. We need it now. We need it. Look at Kenya, look at Rwanda. A lot of things happen. We cannot just continue saying we will fight for religion. When we have problems, we say God will judge them and we let God fight for us. No, God will not come down. Look at Ghana. People from Ghana, they are the one who fight for themselves. But we say it's there. And you are Christian, you are Muslim. But when we reach issue of when we're supposed to fight, we say, let's leave it for God. Oh, you're my brother. Capitalism will not help anybody. Look at it when people talk about as a tribe on what? Your brother is a ruler. Which of your brother? Did he know me? Somebody who is killing me, I'm buying for you think that I'm happy? I'm going to make a resolution now. Now and now. Thank you, my dear dialysis. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Adeomi, for your call. Go ahead and give us a call, 0808-312-8618. You can leave a WhatsApp message. It is at 0808-312-8618. 0808-312-8618. All right, Mr. Larry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to react to what the caller said?
I didn't hear most of what he said, but one part I captured while he was speaking is that God won't come down. I think he said something like that. But unless you paraphrase what he said, but I didn't get what most of what he said.
He talks about the fact that there's been a lot of these legislators. They've been in the National Assembly for years, from one administration to the next, and still no changes so far in the laws that they're passing, for in the bills that they are raising. There's no changes so far with some of these legislators. He talked about Bajabi Amila, who had been there for years. He talked about their buildings, the fact that they also have billions of naira in their coffers, and they're still there. Trying as much as they can to frustrate Nigerians and still telling Nigerians not to go ahead and protest. Why?
Well, the people in the establishment, the established political elites, actually protect themselves more than the victims of their bad governance protect themselves. They understand the power of coming together. They understand the class struggle more than the proletaate, more than the citizens, more than the oppressed. They understand that they should hang together to oppress the people, more than the people understand that they should come together to remove them from those positions of privilege. Why do I say that? Have you noticed that when politicians quarrel, the moment that their quarrel will in any way sabotage their collective interests, they will settle the quarrel. They will just behave immediately. Yeah, but when ordinary people disagree, they disagree to the extent that when NSAS demonstration is going on, they will use ordinary people to go and sabotage it. Because they don't understand that sometimes you have to look at these guys eyeball to eyeball and stop them in their tracks. So they are consciously doing what they are doing, knowing fully well that any day Nigeria gets proper leadership, and we look at the records of our past leaders, most of them will either rot in jail forever or go into exile. So they don't want any sane person to come near that their seat of power, whether it's at the legislative level or at the executive level. Now they are even infiltrating the judiciary. They are appointing wives, cousins, nephews, so that they will entrench themselves permanently to ensure that the ordinary people will not have the capacity to take a look at their records one day. But the truth is that ultimately, you can delay these things, but they won't be denied. It may take forever, but one day it will happen. Yes, so they want to leave almost 50% of privileged government jobs for some people. And of course, the graduates understood that they are being shortchanged, more or less. Do you know that only upon their position, they reduce them from 50% to 5%? That is the power of the people speaking. And they are insisting that some ministers must resign, that this must go to Kenya and see what is happening there. So the Nigerian political elites, the cabal, they are tightening the news. They are trying to, if you go to even state universities, of every university, they are hoping that
conversation this morning. I hope we have another time. I would have to set out another time so we can look at this wholeheartedly and not this 45 minutes that we are struggling to have. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I hope, I said something today that they should be listening to. Those who make peaceful change impossible, make violent change inevitable. While we don't advocate violent change, when you push people to the wall, sometimes they don't pass through the wall, they fight back. So I hope that they are really listening to the voice of the people. And I hope also that the people are listening so that the next election cycle, they will know the kind of people to elect, not people who will say that you can't use government money to build markets for people.
All right.
Thank
you so much, sir. Have a blessed week.
And you too, have a wonderful week.
All right, I've got Nonso, the sports bishop, right here in the studio with me. Question, Nonso, have you ever, what's an average Nigerian father going to buy his daughter after graduating from his secondary school, or his son? What do you think?
Yeah, I think this one, you caught me off guard. I don't have a daughter yet, but I don't know. What can you buy from secondary school?
Secondary school, what do you think? We have a lawmaker who bought his secondary school daughter an SUV.
It's unacceptable, and this is the issue.
House of Rep member who bought his daughter an SUV upon graduating from the secondary school, not even university.
It's you see, it tells you the amount of like say waste.
What they drag on like saying as much
generator.
If you see the way people are torchlighting the EFCC, you should be taking fighting corruption seriously. The source of funds of these members.
Exactly. How can an average Nigerian, be able to take care of his 3 square meters at the moment? They're struggling. They're struggling to even pay their rent. They're struggling to live by. The economic hardship is deafening. And then you're buying a teenager, and who doesn't even know the value of the SUV? An SUV. Wow.
Really, really interesting. But on the sports side, we have a PSG and Victor Osimhen shaking hands.
Yeah.
On a 5-year deal worth about 14 million euros per season. And he's still looking for a significant pay rise. For this, I'm very excited because we're talking about the fact that he might not be juicy enough for other clubs to want him.
But I think PSG were condemned to sign him. When you lose Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid, you need the market signing somewhere, somehow. And
they rushed.
Exactly. Knowing fully well that it seems that suitors were backpedaling, one, because of the his buyout club, which over 130 million euros. And the fact that, the issue is come with Napoli in the dressing room. And they're like, can we keep this guy? Will he help our dressing room? We all know he's a fantastic goal scorer, but apart from football, there are other things that matter,
Exactly.
And a lot of clubs seem to backpedal. Even Chelsea. We're hoping this is what Chelsea are doing right now. Let me give you a hint, because we get it from an insider in the Chelsea that they're waiting for PSG to negotiate a lesser fee from that buyout clause, and then they will try to hijack the deal, because we all know when it comes to English teams buying players, they buy teams, they tend to sell it as a very exorbitant price. I don't know why, but they sell it lesser to other teams from Spain, England, and so they're waiting for PSG to negotiate. They know personal debts will not be a problem, so they can pay even double of what PSG would pay, or even compete with PSG, because PSG also has good money.
So Chelsea is just waiting
for that buyout clause. They just can't pay that amount of money. But we hear that he could be heading to Paris Saint-Germain. I think it's a good one for him, because at the moment, I think if he doesn't leave now, it will be dangerous. He's been training on his own. He needs to move now. All right. I'll take it up from there. We'll leave Victor Osimhen for a moment. Like I said, it's part of our story, but we've done that already. He's gone. We hear he has quietly agreed to 5 year plus 12 months with Paris Saint-Germain. Wait and see if that deal comes to fruition. But let's start off, of course, move straight to basketball, where the Tigers continue their preparation for the Paris Olympic Games. But yet another loss. We told you earlier they lost to Germany in their first friendly game, and again, guys, they'll be beaten by no other than the Serbia team, a team who's 10th in the world, 70-62. Up next for them is Japan, just before the start of the Olympic game. We hope for maybe they can get one victory in those friendly games. In handball, we hear that the Division 1 competition is done and dusted, and Kwa shooters have been crowned champions of the National Division 1 Handball League. They won 21 to 16 goals in the final against Osun United to become Division 1 champion. They'll be playing in the Androva Premier League come next season. To Davis Cup, hooray, hip hip hooray. It's a beautiful time here in Nigeria. I must confirm to you as well as Nigeria has taken one of the slots in the promotion from the Davis Cup African Group 3. They finished second on the group, just behind Namibia, and Zimbabwe finished third. So 3 of them will be promoted to the Euro Group 2, and good one for Dayo Okundayo, the president of the NTF. Less than a year, Nigeria moved from Group 4 to Group 3, and from Group 3 to Group 2. Hopefully, we've never moved past Group 2. Hopefully, this time we'll get to Group 1. We hear that Zimbabwe and Namibia are the other 2 teams that will join Nigeria. In that one, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire will be relegated, and Benin Republic will stay put in Group 3. A lot of handball right now. We go to Super Sand Eagles. It's a beautiful day, I must tell you, in our beach soccer. After 5 years of not playing in the continent or in the world, talking about beach soccer, the Super Sand Eagles were fantastic in Mauritania, not Chok precisely, beating Mauritania by 5 goals to 1, coming from 3-2 down to win that game by 5-2 with one man, Victor Tale, scoring. Yes, he scored the winner in that encounter to ensure that Nigeria get a 5-2 victory. The second leg will be played July the 27th at the Mutarara Square in Kaduna. The winner of that one will automatically book themselves a ticket to the African Cup of Nations for the big soccer. Let's hear from, of course, the captain of the team, talking about how wonderful his team were. It was all grateful in the early hours of yesterday morning, and this is what he had to say after that 5-4 victory in Mauritania.
Hello, Nigeria. Good morning. So wonderful. Actually, before leaving Nigeria, we came to the NFF office, and we promised the General Secretary just go out like that. They were going out to make a name and make a difference. And by the special grace of God, that we will not just go there to go and watch, but we are going there to go and make a history. And to the glory of God, we came to Mauritania, and Mauritania saw the country, that this country is a great country, and they have talents, and they saw a great game. They never believed what was coming, and they never believed what was going to happen. We ourselves, we the Nigerians, who believe ourselves, despite the traveling way, we passed through stress, but we came and we say, Nigeria, you guys have sent us to represent. We are not going to turn you down. Ourselves all out, and to the glory of God, we make a name.
That was the captain of the Super Star Eagles. So grateful and giving thanks to God for that victory. Talking about Victor Tal. Don't forget the guys they trained yesterday on Sunday in the turf where they won that game in Northchurch, but they left Mauritania early hours of this morning for Nigeria for the second leg. I'll be running quickly now. Super Falcons have begun their training. Officially started on Sunday. They had a day rest on Saturday. They had the training on Sunday. The squad list has been released. The squad numbers have been released. And we're preparing for that game on Thursday against the Brazilian national team. We'll give them all the best of luck. Talking about the Super Falcons. And on the 20 team are also going on a 1 week break. I beg your pardon. They've been in camp since the 7th of July. They'll be going on a break from the 1st of August to the 7th to return back as they continue their preparations for the Under-20 World Cup that will take place in Colombia. Don't forget, the draws for the WAFU B Women's Champions League will take place this week. We'll get to know who the Queens will be playing in their group as they try to get a place in the Women's Cup Champions League in that encounter. We'll talk about PSG and, of course, Victor Osimhen will let you know all about that as well. But quickly, We heard that USA managed the 101 victory against South Sudan. Talking about basketball in the pre-Olympic qualifiers. Don't forget, USA are number 1 in the world. They have the best players playing in the NBA. They were almost stunned by South Sudan, but the one man, LeBron James, came to their rescue. For Lewis Hamilton, it wasn't a day to remember for him. He finished in 3rd, as of course it was, come on, what a day week it was for Formula 1. As one guy, Oscar Piastri, did the job. He won that one, his maiden Grand Prix victory in McLaren. They won 1-2 in London. Norris finishing 2nd. And of course, you know who I'm talking about, finishing 3rd. That's no other than, of course, Lewis Hamilton. To ensure it was McLaren 1-2 and Lewis Hamilton finishing 3rd. Before we go again, where else we Rafael Nadal as well was beating the final of the Swede Open. That I can confirm to you, 6-3, 6-2 by world number 51 Nuno Borges. He won the Swedish Open. Don't forget, for Nadal, it's all about playing at the Olympics. He's been working hard. He missed the Wimbledon. He said his target is the Olympics. Wait and see how well he pans out in that one. And of course, we hear Emil Højbjerg is on the verge of joining Tottenham Hotspur for £17 million. Don't forget that since the appointment of the former coach of Brighton, De Zerbi, they've been Greenwood. There have been a lot of quality players moving, and we hear that Emil Højbjerg will be heading that direction as well. And then finally, guys, this is where I'll be stopping it. Man United boss Erik ten Hag have said it clearly that Anthony, the winger, has all it takes to become a world-class player at Man United. He believes the player can do well at the club and change the story. And of course, he said, according to him, that the words of Ralph Rangnick, the former boss who was in charge of Man United for 7 months, is true. That Man United needs an open heart surgery. Yes, he said it. Open heart surgery and not a minor operation. And that's why he's over 2 years in charge of the club. He has still failed to create a team that can win the Premier League.
Well, the heart is open. Are they going to have anesthesia? Are they going to have something to help? Because open heart surgery, hey, God, do. Want to see how that plays out.
It means they have to chop and change and chop and change and chop. Jordan Sancho has gone, he returned. They've gotten Ziki, they've gotten Lenny Yoro. So many signings coming in. But you say, hey, hold up, it's not easy. This is a major surgery. It may take more than 2-3 years to get Man United where they want to be.
Maybe Erik ten Hag should just speak with Pep to help him.
Wow.
Maybe.
Pep is not in giving mood. I think he wants to win the league again. But don't forget, he's got 1 year in his contract. We hear that Man City as well are running around the clock to get him to sign a new extension. We hear that the Three Lions want to fans where they can steal him over to the Three Lions national team. But for Pep, it's a prize asset. Absolutely, what a coach has been for probably in the English top flight.
All right, thank you so much, Nonso, for your time this morning. We absolutely appreciate you.
Okay.
My name is Gesiere. We'll come your way again tomorrow at 7 a.m. right down to 9 a.m. Coming up at 9 is Ogendigo, of course, the complete Igbo